Good evening. Welcome to Interesting Talks with Footprints. I truly hope that you're well and that your glass is half full rather than half empty. Thank you for joining us this evening. Your support is truly appreciated. The last talk we did on ego states sparked a lot of interesting conversation, and a lot of it was offline. We all learn from each other, and conversations are partially very important to this. Today's talk is on the attachment style. This has a major effect on who you are as a person. The interesting thing about it is not a lot of people know about it. And if I explain it the right way, it will make a lot of sense to us all. It has a major effect on all of our relationships with other people and with ourselves. So do listen and watch until the end and see which style you think you come under. The secure, the avoidant, the anxious, or the disorganized. Which type of attachment style do you think that you have? Have you ever noticed that you usually think and act in certain ways in romantic relationships? Maybe you're a bit jealous and afraid of being alone for a long time, or perhaps you feel confident and totally trusting of your partner. One possible explanation for this is your pattern, is your attachment theory. Knowing your unique attachment style can help you become more self-aware and build healthier long-term relationships and partnerships. Changing your attachment styles is possible. Now, the attachment theory itself was founded by psychoanalyst John Bowlby in the 1950s and expanded by Mary Ainsworth. Now, the attachment theory outlines your bond with your primary caregivers and sets the foundation for how you navigate relationships throughout your life. Now, there are 4 types of attachment styles. The secure one, which speaks for itself. The avoidant, aka dismissive, anxious and avoidant in children. The anxious, the aka preoccupied and anxious and ambivalent in children. And we unconsciously expect our romantic partners to act as our parents did. And therefore we act in certain ways due to these expectations so that we can get the affection that we need. But obviously it's not the same with our romantic partners as what it would have been in our parents' time. Now, the disorganized attachment theory is also based on our childhood, but it's obviously disorganized. Now, the secure attachment is defined by the ability to build healthy, long-lasting relationships with others. And obviously all of this stuff starts from our caregivers. Now, how it develops is having a secure attachment resulting in feeling secure with our caregivers from childhood, being able to ask for reassurance and validation without punishment. Ultimately, you felt safe and understood and comforted and valued during your early interactions with your caregivers. Attachment theory is not something that is new. It's something that we've known about for many, many years, actually since the 1950s, if not before, but we don't pay a lot of attention to it. We don't think about it. It's something that takes place in the background without us monitoring it. But yeah, it has such a great effect on us, so much so that we can fall into patterns of behavior that are actually detrimental to our well-being, yet not realizing it because it's taking place on a subconscious level. And during evolution, infants and toddlers were monitoring their parents' behavior for strategies that would allow them to stay close to their parents, because we couldn't do nothing and we can't do nothing without our parents or our caregivers when we're born. Horses are born and they come out of the amniotic sac or the sac when they're born. And you know what happens? They start running. Foals start running straight away. But us as humans, we need to be around our parents for around 7 years before we can start to fend for ourselves. And that's quite a long time compared to, well, a very long time compared to a horse, a foal that comes out of its mother and obviously starts running straight away. Now, there's differences with genders that women seem to be more anxious than men, and men seem standoffish. That's just a general rule in the attachment theory. Some differences between men and women. But most of the attachment theories, they do work on the basis of what happened when you was born and how you grew up with your parents and how those relationships developed. And of course, subconsciously, those skills that you learned then, you carry it on into your adulthood. So yeah, back, just quickly refresh. We go back, just have a look at the secure attachment is defined by the ability to build long, healthy, long-lasting relationships with people. And it starts, obviously, from your childhood. A secure attachment results from feeling secure by your caregivers in childhood and being able to ask for reassurance and validation without punishment. Ultimately, you felt safe, understood, comforted, and valued during your early interactions with your caregivers. You were probably emotionally available. They were probably emotionally available to you and all of your emotions and behaviors. Hence, the childhood model was secure as an attachment theory, and it helps you to be balanced. Now, all parents have different styles of parenting, and different pressures come under them. And we're not blaming our parents here. I must categorize that we are not blaming our parents here. They might have been easy trusting, effective communicators with us, with their skills to us, ability to seek emotional support from them. That's from our side. Comforting while being alone, comfortable and close in relationships comes from that. If we have a secure attachment style with our parents or our caregivers, ability to self-reflect and being easy to connect with, and having a great ability to manage conflict, and higher levels of self-esteem, an ability to be emotionally available and to trust their partners. Intentions of jealousy is often not an issue with people that have a secure attachment style. Attached people feel that they are worthy of love and don't need external reassurance. Now, an avoidant attachment style, the avoidant one, is dismissive. They're avoidant or anxious avoidant. All the words are the same. Insecure attachment styles. How does it develop? Well, again, back to in childhood, you may have had a strict, emotionally distant, absent caregiver. Your caregiver may have left you to fend for yourself at certain times, expected you to be independent, reprimanded you for depending on them, rejected you when you were expressing your needs or emotions, being slow to respond to your basic needs. Some avoidant parenting products outright neglect their children and simply busy and distracted, and more concerned with things like grades, chores, manners, feelings, hopes, dreams, or fears. Signs you might have an anxious avoidant attachment style if you have these persistently in your life. Persistently avoiding emotional, physical intimacy, feeling a strong sense of independence, uncomfortable expressing your feelings, dismissive of others, have a hard time trusting people, feel threatened by anyone who tries to get close to you, and you spend more time alone than interacting with others. Believe you don't need others in your life and have commitment issues. How it manifests in relationships: you are anxious and avoidant. Attached to adults tend to navigate to relationships at arm's length. They need emotional intimacy is simply lacking. Type of individual romantic relationships are not able to reach any level of depth, and that's the anxious attachment style. Anxious attachment style, also known as the anxious ambivalent or anxious preoccupied, is another type of insecure attachment characterized by fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, depending on your partner for validation and emotional regulation, codependent tendencies. How does this develop? This attachment style stems from inconsistent parenting. That that isn't the attitude a child needs. Children have difficulty understanding their caregivers anyway, and have no security for what to expect from moving forward, or confused with their parental relationships and feel unstable. Children with this attachment style experience very high levels of distress. Their caregivers leave sometimes, and parents will be supportive, responsive to their child needs, while other times they're not attuned to their children. Signs you might have anxious attachment style include clinging tendencies, high sensitivity to criticism, real or perceived, needing approval from others, jealous tendencies, difficulty being alone, not wanting to be alone but finding it difficult to be alone, low self-esteem, feeling unworthy of love, intense fear of rejection, significant fear of abandonment, difficulty in trusting others. How does it manifest in relationships? Well, people with anxious attachment styles usually feel unworthy of love, need constant reassurance from their partners. They often blame themselves for challenges in the relationship and can exhibit frequent, intense, jealous or disruptive actions due to poor self-esteem. Let's have a look at that last one. What is a disorganized attachment style? Anxious, disorganized attachment is defined by having extremely inconsistent behavioral difficulties of trusting others. What's a disorganized attachment style? Anxious, disorganized is defined by having extremely disorganized behavior in trusting others at any time at all, whether it's a sibling, a loved one, work colleague. And how does this develop? The most common cause of this attachment style are from childhood again. Childhood neglect, abuse, fear from their parents, no sense of safety was present. The child with this attachment style may seem confused, and caregivers were inconsistent and often seem sources of comfort with fear. So the child was disorganized, didn't know whether to feel comforted or fearful, because the parents were basically a form of Jekyll and Hyde. So they feared rejection, inability to regulate their emotions, contradictory behaviors, high levels of anxiety, and how it manifests in relationships with others, personal relationships. People with disorganized attachment styles tend to have unpredictable and confusing behavior. They alternate between being aloof, independent, and then being clingy and emotional. While they desperately seek love, they also push partners away because of the fear of love in many cases. The individual may try to talk to a counsellor about their childhood experiences and how it's affected them in their future relationships. It may not be an easy journey to take on board, but it's well worth it if you would like to change your attachment style to a more secure style. And it'll be useful to do this because obviously you only got one life. And a lot of this stuff, as I've said, takes place on an unconscious level. We may find ourselves acting out in ways that we can't explain. And this is because of our drives, our unconscious drives, that we don't know anything about. So, until 2 weeks' time, take care of yourself, share this video. Bye for now.